Module 8. Many, if not all, characteristics of a person's behavior may be traced to past programming by authority figures like parents, family members, friends, religious leaders, teachers, and of course the media of the world. What's generally overlooked is the influence of karma, of past lives. Cause and effect is recognized by virtually all the scientific community. Every illness can be traced to a particular incident, every accident or coincidence to a particular event. This is on the level of the present, of now. If one was able to go even further back, you'd find a lot of interest. Things of interest that affects a person's life, this life, in a previous life. Consider one of my recent students. The incident took place in Portugal. I was demonstrating past life therapy and I asked for a volunteer. Let's call her Bradella. Bradella was greatly overweight. She told me through an interpreter, I don't speak Portuguese, that she'd been fighting her weight problem of her adult life, but nothing seemed to help. Was there anything in past life therapy that might have a positive effect on the problem? Well, my first inclination was to say no, as I had never used past life therapy for weight loss. But as all my classes was research as well as teaching, I said, well, let's see. And so Bradella went into a deep state of meditation and then went into a future life where she saw herself as thin, energetic, and popular. Then she was directed to go through the bright fog into a past life that was having an effect on her weight in her present life. She saw the scene as though it were a three-dimensional movie. She was a peasant in an unidentified town and her entire family was starving. She imagined that she saw her mother, her sister, and two young brothers laying around in a hut. They hadn't eaten for days, and they were waiting for their father who had been gone for 2 days. Bradella wanted to wait around until her father got back, but as her instructions were just to observe the scene, view whatever comes up, that's what she did. She was in deep meditation for about 5 minutes. That's about as long as it normally takes. She came out of the meditation and told the group what she'd experienced. Well, I finished the class and I didn't hear anything else about Bradella until the following year when I returned to Lisbon to do another seminar. At the seminar, a pretty slim young lady walked over to me, grinned, and asked through the interpreter if I remembered her. I said, no, I didn't. Well, she grinned like a Cheshire cat after that. She said, I'm Bradella. And she reminded me of the past life session of the previous year. After that, I added weight control to past life therapy. It appears to work with just about any problem. Another young lady from Cleveland, Ohio, Janie by name, had a strange affliction. She habitually and constantly pulled her hair. One by one, she yanked them out of her head and wherever hair grew. I later found this was uncommon, but it existed as a problem all over the world, even has a name. The name of it is trichotillomania, or TTM, often referred to as trick or trich. The affliction was new to me. I'd never heard of it before, but here was another chance to see if PLT would work for this problem. Janie went into a deep meditation, and as this was the teaching class, she reported what she was seeing while she was in the meditation state. I'm in a cellar, she said. Bombs are going off outside. Apparently there was a war going on. She continued, a soldier is in the cellar with me. I want his hat, and he takes it off and he gives it to me. I'm scared. I put the hat on and I pull it tight over my ears. Well, that was it. That was the entire scene. I had no idea what that had to do with the TTM problem. But I have found long ago and many, many times, don't try to figure out the reasons. Just walk through the scene, observe it, let it go. For Janie, as with Bradella, one session did it. Janie, after that, no longer had the compulsion to pull out her hair. Past life therapy seems to work with so many things. I haven't had occasion to use it for alcoholism, but I don't see any reason why I shouldn't work with that problem. Perhaps one of my internet students will use the technique successfully and report it. Another incident comes to mind where the person went to a past life and found himself looking over a field of grass. Only that, nothing more. His problem was that he was lazy. He wanted to do things but couldn't get himself out of the house. He lived with his parents, which was fine, but he was 38 years old and he felt his life slipping by. His days were spent either reading or watching TV. He went for an occasional walk around the block, but that was the extent of his expenditure of energy. His mother was too used to seeing her son in the house, and she enjoyed his company. Not requiring any income, he got lazier and lazier. He told me later it was an effort for him to come to my class, but the class was in Van Nuys, and he lived in Sherman Oaks, which was close by, in the next town, actually. So he dragged himself out of the house and came to the class. Well, we used him as a subject, and he reported seeing the field of grass, but that was it, nothing more. Whatever that field represented, though, it did the trick. He went to work for his father, who had been trying to get his son into his business for years without any success. Another instance in Van Nuys was the case of Helena. Helena had severe migraine headaches. Deep in meditation, she stepped through the bright fog and suddenly saw herself on a scaffold getting hung. She couldn't gather the time period, but guessed it was the Middle Ages. She observed the scene for a few moments and came out of the meditation. Result? No more headaches. One interesting case was a gentleman named Stanley. He came into my office when I had a center in Tarzana, California. It was, I believe the year was 1977. He whispered in my ear that he was impotent and could past life therapy help him. As usual, I said, I don't know. I can't promise anything, but I know it can't hurt. And if you don't like the result, you get your money back, so you can't lose. Well, that Saturday, he came to the seminar with his wife, who had a look on her face like she'd swallowed a glass of lemon juice. I guided him through the meditations, and he reported going to a place where there was a meeting of many men. He felt as though he was learning about something, but he couldn't gather just what. The scene made no sense, but as instructed, he just observed. He didn't critique it. He just viewed what his imagery brought to him. The next day, Sunday, he came in with his wife, who had a radiant look on her face. He took a seat in the back of the room and, winking, gave me a thumbs up. Apparently, whatever had taken place during the past life meditation worked. And another class that comes to mind was one where I'd been doing a few healings, as that too was among the things that I was teaching. When a young man, Lester was his name, asked if everybody had the ability to heal. As I've always felt that was the case, I said yes. But some people block the ability, and suddenly a thought came to me. Could past life therapy open this ability if, in fact, it had been blocked by some remote incident during a past lifetime? Asking Lester, he was in his late teens, if he'd like to volunteer to be a subject, we'd find out if we could turn him into a healer. Well, Lester came to the front of the class and took a seat. I helped him to get to a deep level of meditation, first telling him that he was going to go to a prior lifetime that had something to do with him becoming a healer, or whatever it was that was blocking him becoming a healer. Guiding him through the bright fog-like light, I asked him where he was. I'm walking down a dirt road, he said. There's a woman there by a well. She's drinking from a cup of some kind. How do you feel about that? I asked. I'm thirsty too, he said. I want some of the water, but she won't give me any. Why won't she give you any of the water? I asked. Because she doesn't like me, he said. Why doesn't she like you? I asked. Because I have on a red cape and she's one of the blue people, he said. How do you feel about that? I asked. I want to be one of the blue people, but I don't know how, was his response. He was quiet for a while. I didn't say anything. After a minute, I asked, what's happening? He shook his head and muttered, Nothing, it all went away. After that, I counted him back and back to the present. He looked mystified and pretty much reported the same thing that we had heard. It seemingly had absolutely nothing whatever to do with him opening up his healing abilities. But we would soon find out. There were about 100 people in that class, and I asked if any of them were in any pain. A few people raised their hands, and we picked 3 of them. One had a painful shoulder, another a back pain, and the third had hurt her foot a week prior to the seminar and was still limping. I called the 3 to the front, and I told Lester, heal them. How? He asked. Well, you're a healer now, I replied. You figure it out. Lester scratched his head. He went to the man with the painful shoulder. He put his 2 hands on the man's shoulder and looked him in the eye, saying, the pain is gone. The man smiled, moved his arm around, and nodded. Yes, it is, he said. Lester kind of screwed up his face in disbelief. He put his hands on the woman with the back pain. He said, the pain is gone. And she too said, yes, it is. Now Lester was really mixed up. He squatted down in front of the woman with the limp and gently grabbed her foot, saying again, the pain is gone. And the woman turned her foot a few times and walked down the aisle smiling without a hint of a limp. Lester walked back to his seat in a daze. He was a healer. Everyone's a healer. All you have to do is remove whatever is blocking it if you think you can't heal. I found by going into a past life with the intention of going to an incident that is having some effect on a problem or situation that you want to correct in this life, there is very often a positive resolution. In the next module, there'll be a meditation to take you to a past life that is having an effect that you want to correct. Before going into your meditation, think about the problem that you want resolved. That's your intention, to resolve that problem by going into a past life. Keep that in your mind, but let it go as soon as you hear the 3 to 1 count. After that, just concentrate on my words. So then, for now, find a comfortable place where you'll be undisturbed for 15 minutes or so. Relax, listen, and follow along with the next module.